Garen, moving to the backs, Ruan Pienaar and Rudy Page in your new list, compared with Kobus Reinach and Francois Hougaard in the former list. I don't know if Heineke is at liberty to call up guys from the Currie Cup ranks, or, I mean, do you see something like that happening?
Yeah. Look, I mean, Scrum-half is a position that actually really worries me, to be honest. You know, everyone's putting so much stock in Fourie du Preez, banking on his experience, and we haven't seen him on a rugby field for a couple of years, it feels like now. You know, Heineke, a big fan of Fourie du Preez at the time when they were together at the Bulls. You know, Fourie is really going to have to step up from nowhere. I'm not even sure if he's got 80 minutes in him to start with, to be honest. We've seen Ruan Pienaar start pretty much every game for the Boks in recent memory. But apparently Fourie du Preez is the #1 choice. Ruan Pienaar is going to go as his backup, and then it's, you know, because it's a key position, they're going to take a third scrum half. Now, you know, we all thought sort of Kobus Reinach, you know, he's been there in the mix, he's played fairly well for the Sharks and Super Rugby and stuff. But apparently what we've learned is that Rudy Page is going to go instead. For me, you know, I actually quite like old Faf de Klerk from the Lions.
Yeah.
You know, he's had a really good season. I'm going to go ahead and say it because Rudy Page is off colour. I think that's probably what swung it in his favour. You know, he's obviously the whole transformation issue as well, looking to take 30% of the team, which equates to, I think, 9 out of the 31. And I think he fulfills or ticks that box. So I think that's the reason he's going to go. I feel fairly sorry for Faf de Klerk and Kobus Reinach. You know, they've done nothing wrong, but it seems like Rudy Page is going to sort of like skip them in the pecking order and, you know, move all the way up to #3. Francois Hougaard, interesting pick as well. He's got that versatility that I talked about in the past. You know, he has played a bit on the wing and at scrum half, and he's played really, really well for the Bulls in the first couple of weeks of Currie Cup rugby.
Some people are still surprised that he's not in the mix. You know, that he was.
Yeah,
that he was
I was going to say it is a surprise because he's got that versatility as well, and he'll never sort of disgrace a Springbok team. You know, he'll always, you know, put up his hand and give a full 80 minutes. So I'm fairly surprised that he looks like he's not going to be going. But yeah, it looks like Heineke's got his 3 penciled in or penned in at this stage. So those are the 3 that look like they're going to be going.
Okay. And then finally, Rob, the only other 2 players with question marks above them in your latest list, you've got Zane Kirshner down as the reserve fullback, with the former list Francois Steyn as a utility centre fullback. But I mean, you know, the chances of him going are also in question.
Yes, there have been rumblings for a few days that Frans Steyn might not make the cut. Of course, he was in the squad under what you might call a little bit of duress. You know, he's had a few spats with Saru in the past. He's been a bit sort of in and out of the country, and he sort of evokes strong opinions because he is a very good rugby player. But it seems now that especially him he took sadly an enforced break, of course, for bereavement purposes because of his brother's death a few weeks ago, which took him out of the build-up squad mix for a couple of weeks, which probably wasn't ideal in terms of trying to sort of get him reblended, if you like, into Springbok ways. And I've got really strong info now that he's not going to be part of the mix. Which of course has opened up the way for somebody like Kirshner, because I think Frans Steyn could have covered fullback very, very tidily at the World Cup among various other positions. But Kirshner is now going to be the dedicated backup. Not too much of a surprise, given that Heineke has always been quite partial to him, and he's got that sort of safe northern climes game, you know, to fit a Bok template if conditions are going to be a little bit grim over there. He's not the worst guy to have as your backup fullback if Fourie du Preez is a little bit sort of off colour or doing sort of slightly daft things, as we know he can do. So not completely surprising. And don't forget that Kirshner can also cover outside centre. He's done the job before reasonably well. So, but again, I'm not certain that he's going to necessarily be part of the real core of players, but he's there for depth purposes, and not too much of a beef on my part with that.
So final question, guys. Any bolters? Any surprises? A Faf de Klerk? Lionel Mapu? Rob? Garen, go for it.
You know, for me, whenever you see a 31-man squad, it's always who missed out, who are the unlucky ones, not so much who those that actually made it. And for me, you know, like a Francois Hougaard, a Faf de Klerk, you know, Dwayne Vermeulen apparently will go, massive injury worry over him. Jean de Villiers going as the captain, but has got a broken jaw.
I mean, that's another debate.
So, yeah, we could go on and on and on. You know, they're going to be hard luck stories. They're going to be players that are tired of South African selection, I'm going to head off overseas. The good part for them is they can still be picked when they're overseas.
Yeah.
But there's always going to be unhappiness and disgruntled players, and unfortunately that's always the case. In Hanneke Meier's defence, it's not an easy task to pick up the phone and say, sorry, you are going or you are not going. So, rather him than me. It's for us to sort of dissect the squad and see who should have been there, who should perhaps not have been there. So, overall, looking at the squad, I don't think it's the strongest Springbok squad we've ever seen to a World Cup. I think that a lot of players over the age of 30, getting towards the end of their careers, this World Cup's come, I think, a few years too late for a number of these players. And I still think South Africa will get knocked out in the quarterfinals, no matter who the 15 are that start that match.
Okay. Rob, I want 2 bolters from you.
Okay, Pieter-Steph du Toit, quite chuffed that he's going. Just on talent grounds, you would have thought a natural selection anyway, but let's remember that he's also coming back from 2 pretty hideous long-term injuries, so there was some doubt around him, but I thought we saw enough of him as a substitute in that Buenos Aires win against Argentina. He looked terrific on the blindside flank, full of energy, full of intent, and I'm very happy that I believe he's going to be in the mix. But at the same time, it doesn't mean that Lood de Jager is going to be ditched, because I've seen some journalists suggesting that Lood de Jager wouldn't go, and to me that would be absolutely inconceivable, because I think he's been superb this season. He's been one of the most consistent Springbok tight forwards, full stop, this season, and surely deserves to go. And again, I think he's on the bus as well. So I'm very happy that this place made for both Pieter-Steph du Toit and Lood de Jager.